Hi, my name is Nick Hurst, and I've been asked to make a video on a great friend of mine, Jeremy Mackenzie, or Macca. I've known Macca since university days, and he's always been quite an extraordinary person in New Zealander, all of which is totally qualified by his life today, from one of the most respected New Zealand winemakers of his generation, an incredible family man to partner Beck, and kids Finn, Neve and Honor, but also his ability to push his body and mind in adventure racing and in general life workloads way beyond what I can even consider possible. I spent a month with Jeremy through Vintage this year and got to know a lot more about how this man ticks. Take a look.
If I weren't a winemaker, what would I be? I guess coming off a farm and growing up in a rural community, I've always loved the feel of being able to make a tangible product that people love and enjoy. Obviously, through my learnings and studies, I did a Bachelor of Science in Biochemistry and Microbiology, and then I did a postgrad in Forensic Science, followed by a postgrad in winemaking. So those were the two things that I guess intrigued or interested me back then, forensics, and for sure I'd love to be a forensic scientist, but the places and the lifestyle that's attributed to forensic science is probably not as enjoyable as winemaking.
I've been making a few videos with Jeremy in the busiest time of the wine industry calendar, when most winemakers would cringe at the thought of having to fit something like this in. Jeremy's days start at sunrise and end near midnight, but still, Jeremy finds time for his passions and family life. I asked how he can make all this happen.
Obviously, vintage is a fairly fast-paced and intense time. There's not a huge amount of break these days between finishing vintage and then rolling into preparation of wines for shipping out or for getting out to the market. You know, obviously I make both wines in the commercial sector, but also wine in the boutique zone. So some of them have a longer period of time in oak, or some of them are getting ready to bottle and that in August. So there's not a huge downtime these days. Relaxation for me is obviously getting out in the hills. It's a great way to clear your head, and you know, when you're out there, no one can judge you. You're out there on your own, you're doing your own thing, you've got your dogs, and it's just an amazing time, I guess, up in the morning, sunrise, crashing around through scrub and native bush. It just excites me. But then again, you know, I've got a great family and some really cool kids who just love getting out and doing stuff, whether it's mountain biking or water skiing or you know, as winter folds, getting onto the ski slopes and that as well.
I was talking to a mutual friend about making this video. He said something pretty interesting to me. When I think about Macca, it makes me feel kind of useless as a human being. Jeremy is not a man afraid of thinking big and taking on the big challenges in life. He also inspires others to be better than they are. I asked him how he can achieve this.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, I'm a very driven person, and I love to achieve. I never like to be second. I've always tried to push the bar and get to the top, whether it's in winemaking or whether it's in sport. I think it's having that energy and that sort of mental fortitude to allow yourself to keep moving. And I think it's so important these days that you know, you have a good balance. And obviously I have this sort of balance between winemaking and work and family and sport and leisure. And even though I push very hard and love to win, I guess, I love to create great wines, and I always see it as an immense challenge every year. But I love cycle racing or adventure racing or doing Ironman and that sort of thing as well, because it's a real challenge to brain and body, and I think it really sets yourself in a good stead or good footing moving forward as well for career wise and that too. You're always pushing the boundaries, you're always pushing to try and set the bar high. You like to create a team around you and bring a lot of that passion and sense of achievement to those guys as well, and build something which can be special.
I heard some great advice once. If you really want to see what sort of person someone is, look at their children. I asked Jeremy about his values with regards to bringing up his family.
Yeah, I mean, they're a really important part of what we do. I mean, obviously Beck is very driven as well, and lives in a similar wavelength to what I do, so we naturally gel together. And I think some of the key things for us are around healthy living, essentially. Whether it be with food and that sort of thing. Obviously, having the hunter-gatherer mentality, we eat a lot of organic produce that I've caught or fished for or dived for. And then, with the sport side of it as well, that it sort of becomes a wee bit of monkey see, monkey do. And we don't push them into what they want to do, they decide and choose to do it. And it's great to have them be part of that, whether it's mountain biking to the top of the Richmond Ranges with Finn, or whether it's having a run with Neve in the Wither Hills and that too. So I find that sort of stuff quite exciting, and I think it's it's about having a good balance.
So Jeremy achieves more than most, and maybe more than a couple of normal people combined. I asked Jeremy why he thinks this is possible when we all work the same amount of hours in the day.
I guess in terms of training and that, I train hard and train efficient. I don't do as much training as a lot of people who achieve similar results to what I do in sport. And obvious reasons behind that are, having a pretty key or high profile winemaking job, which does suck a lot of time. I have a family and 3 kids. I have a couple of vineyards and that sort of thing as well. So my time is very, very limited, and I guess it comes down to really good planning. But on the other hand, I know that mentally I can fit it out with the best of them, even if I haven't done the length of training that a lot of people have. When I get the time, for sure, I do the hours and do the miles, and often it's in the dark after work, or it's very early mornings before work and before the kids get up. So I guess I'm lucky. I don't need a huge amount of sleep. I can function well and perform well with limited sleep capacity. But it does come down to the mental state, and I don't think people realise actually how far they can push their bodies to achieve great things. And I mean, obviously some of my stuff's quite big in terms of Ironman under 10 hours, or adventure racing with podium finishes, or top 10 coast to coast individual one-dayer finishes. But there's achievements for a lot of people that they can't see, and they would probably love to be able to run a half marathon, but they just don't think they can get there. But they really can. It's about turning the key on upstairs and doing some training and knowing that they can get there. And I think that's, with a lot of people, something which it doesn't come naturally, whereas I do have that natural ability to perform and maintain that mental edge, whether it's across racing or whether it's across work. You know, I have a big capacity to keep a high work rate and have a lot on my plate at one